Now, lifeadministration.com presents the Life Administration Podcast. Here are your hosts, Leslie Loftus and Ryan Taylor.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 18 of the Life Administration Podcast. My name is Ryan Taylor, and with me, as always, is
Leslie Loftus. Hello, everyone.
So today, before we get into this, my geek flag is flying high.
It is. That's saying something.
Okay, right. I mean, I'm a passionate person. I get excited about things, but
Geek things.
So
or music things.
yeah, or music things. Last night was the wrap up of the 5-part CW crossover, Crisis on Infinite Earths, and with something that is that sacred, I'll say, in the DC universe, they just did an amazing job. And I'm just...
And that's so rare when fandom gets good service.
Point to Star Wars. Point to Star Trek right now. You know, I'm not even a Star Trek guy, but like I know enough to know that it's not great right now.
Parker, we call her the Nerd Crown Princess, is starting to get into various fandoms, and her battle cry now is, "It's not like that in the book." I'm like, oh, sweetheart.
And it never will be.
It never will be.
I got to tell you, I looked at your bookshelf over there. We got a bunch of Star Wars Legends books, but
Extended universe.
Sure. Pre-Disney.
Right.
But the princess, the farm boy, and the scoundrel. I mean, I read like 3 pages of that while you were talking to Jim. And
that's part of the Disney cross. Like, that's when they were trying. That was one of Disney's first forays into rewriting and putting all of the EU in Legends and kind of rewriting the thing.
I mean, it seemed kind of cool. Like, I mean, it had the picture.
Death Star's better.
Yeah. Death Star's better. I want to read that one. Read that one. However, we're here to talk about kids. We're here to talk about tech. So.
Okay, I think I'm now doing like thumbs every time. When did that start? Okay, fine.
2 thumbs up. And since we're talking about thumbs, go ahead and hit that like button on YouTube.
Well done.
Share.
I didn't even set him up for that. Okay.
Sweet producer segue. Okay, but seriously, kids, tech, they are dealing with things that I know I never dealt with.
Right.
My daughter, who is 3, is going to be dealing with things that your kids probably will never deal with.
Look, and we were just talking with Sean, camera guy, before we started all of this, because one of Sean's kids and all 4 of my kids are constantly sending a text about, oh, hey, this isn't going so well at school today. Can I, somebody come pick me up? And first instinct might be that, oh gosh, kids these days, they're so late. They don't know about work ethic and stuff. I'm pretty sure when I was in middle school, if I had the option to contact my parents, I would have tried. It's really just the fact that they have the device available. And it's changed how they communicate. It changed how they think. But also it's completely in our rear. Like, there's no taking it away. We need to teach them how to navigate it, how to use it as a tool. And we need to teach them by figuring out some of the rules. Some of this stuff is starting to come down itself. Oh, Ro, please don't knock over the lights. Oh, seriously. For a large dog, she is so impressive about getting through things.
And honestly, I have learned to edit around dogs. Like, I mean, if you were to check my YouTube search history, it's like how to edit out dog barks. You see like 7. You guys won't even hear that. Yeah. It's going off like crazy right now.
It really is. So you can just do it kind of like fixing red eye?
Yes. I mean, yes. We'll say yes. We'll say yes.
Well, she's going all the way downstairs, so she's going to go find the other 2 outside. But we need to teach them how to use it, both by figuring it out ourselves and modeling it.
Yeah.
And modeling it.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
I hear a lot of times about screen time limits. I hear a lot of time about, hey, maybe an hour, maybe 2 hours, whatever. I've heard things like tech neck, like because kids.
Tech neck?
You've never heard
neck.
Tech neck.
Okay, got it.
Is that my accent again? The kids got the thing down here like this, and I'm just really more interested on your perspective. I would just ask, where do you sort of fall with all of this sort of stuff?
Well, for one, screen time has completely changed. now when we're talking about screen time, we're not just talking about, say, when you and I were kids. Screen time was watching television, playing video games.
Amen.
There we go. The guys are they're all over this. It was when I was in middle school, it was just starting to be about word processing, where we would spend any time on a screen to actually say, write a report. Certainly we weren't, we were still researching out of regular encyclopedias, because we had the floppies to load. And okay. So each app had its own floppy and you had to load it up. Okay.
Right now, kids are like, what's a floppy?
What's a floppy? It's a big, so I would say think like a CD, but they don't necessarily know.
You mean those shiny coasters?
The shiny coasters, precisely. I'll put some pictures. Oh no, I'll find one of those links about the videos that they do of kids and old tech. So like they give kids a Walkman and they say, how do you work this? I'll find one on floppy disks and I'll put it in the show notes. That'll be kind of fun. Okay. But so screen time was really about entertainment. And I think for the over 35 set, we still kind of think about it that way. But screen time now for them is, short story. I can't tell you how many times elders will tell parents these days, and by the way, my kids are teenagers to tween, so I have young teenagers in that set. You have a toddler. Mm-hmm. But older folks will tell parents today, well, just totally limit screen time. Completely impossible to do when at least by third grade, most of their homework is in the cloud. It's part of their life. It's kind of like the introduction of the telephone back in the early part of the last century. It changed life so they use this for them. This is not just about now it is about those things, and we need to teach them how to limit those things. Mine's taking dictation right now somehow. Whoops. We need to teach them how to make sure that they're not spending all their time doing entertaining things. And there are a lot of apps and a lot of social media stuff that is designed to kind of hook them in sort of an addictive way. Mm-hmm. So we need to teach them how to negotiate those things. But for them, this is how they communicate. This is how they organize. This is how they do life administration.
Which is not a wrong thing.
It's not a wrong thing. It is not a wrong thing.
I mean, if you go back to like our to-do list episodes, we have an exchange where I'm talking about crossing things off of a list and, sort of that psychological feeling that you get when you're crossing it off the list. And you're talking about, how pen and paper is sort of going out of style and in your life is on this. And I think we're just sending an incongruent message. Right. And we're saying, okay, limit your time on this phone, limit your time doing whatever. But everything that is being built for the future is going that way, right? And so it becomes sort of a personal responsibility thing. But then, kids aren't really great at policing themselves. No, they're not. And some of this stuff is designed to keep them. Oh, goodness gracious. Fred Rogers used to talk about this when television was new. One of the reasons that Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood was shot with such... with fewer scene cuts was he didn't like the flash of television. If you go into kids' cartoons and kids' television shows, they're constantly cutting scenes. So, if you were watching the shadows on a wall in a dark room with a television on it, it looks like flash. Everybody, I jinxed this episode. I mentioned how good the dogs had been all day, and now that is our fourth dog interruption. It's awful.
There we go.
It's awful.
Yeah, it's just nuts.
The editing time after every bark is going up. He's
thinking through it right now, going, exactly.
I'm seeing the normalized line, bring it down, edit it out. Okay, what frequency was that bark at? Anyway.
Exactly, but you know how to do it now, so yay! Thank you, Ryan, for getting all of that behind the scenes stuff done. And we have no one downstairs to try and settle the dog. We're just gonna have to deal.
Yep, we're doing it live, baby.
All right, but Mr. Rogers, he had the show shot in that way because he wanted to reduce the flash of television, and because it would ping their attention span so that they would want to stay more glued to it. Okay, there's tons of apps that do the same kind of thing. So just as our parents taught us how to not spend all of our time in front of the boob tube, that's what it was called because it made you stupid, right? And then they had rules about how close you could sit to it. Same
Your
thing.
eyes will get crossed if you sit too close. And it's like, well, tell that to my 2-year-old with her iPad right here. You know what I mean? Like, oh my gosh.
So we have to teach them now. There's a fly in this ointment because we have to teach them how to limit and self-edit, etc., their screen time usage when they're much better at using the stuff than we are. To them, it's much more intuitive. Like I have to figure out things behind the scenes. Like before I teach my kids how to use an app or how to use certain aspects of social media, I still don't really know how to use Snapchat. Now I've gotten on Snapchat in part so that I could see what's going on and figure out, so that and then my husband is on it. More so we ended up, partnering up. And so he takes some social media things. I take some other social media things, set their privacy settings, all this kind of stuff. But even then, they can get around, like if you set just rules against usage, they can get around most of those. They can get around them faster than you can figure it out. There's no way around the fact that we have to teach them to be their own monitor, to be their own compass, and how to use this stuff, which is a little complicated since we've got to figure it out on our own ourselves.
Right. I mean, I'm getting to that point now, and I sort of consider myself someone that is
his daughter is 3.
Yeah,
and yes,
tech savvy.
Uh-huh.
And so what's happening is like, there's this app, it's like you feed, I think it's called like Terrific Tom or something like that, but it's a little kitty cat,
yes, I know.
Right? And you give him the apple, you choose the apple, you gotta make him go potty, the whole thing, right? She's super into it. Okay, cool, right? Sometimes she'll come to me and like his color has changed and she's upset. Daddy, I don't want his fur to be pink. I don't want his fur to be pink, right?
Because it's supposed to be yellow or,
right, or whatever,
kids have
right?
rules.
She has no idea what she's done yet. So now she gives me this thing, and this is someone that's been playing video games since 1981. I came out of the womb with a Nintendo controller in my hand. Like, I mean, yeah. So, and I get this thing.
Sean's not even a girl, and he's like, ouch.
Those corners and the controls were very rigid back then. Okay, so she gives me the thing. She doesn't know what happened, and so now I have to figure out how to change this cat's fur or give it a
by the way, without changing anything else.
Oh yeah. So then you got to go into the closet, and then because it was a special fur, I got to hit the star, and then I got to do the circle thing. And I mean, like, so, and this is a 3-year-old like app. Okay,
trust me. Oh,
it's just gonna get worse. It's just gonna get worse. Okay, so since we're sort of talking about Hallie right now, and she's not under 2 anymore, but I'm looking at our show notes and it says no screen time under 2 years old. For me, that if I'm judging my life by this, I'm feeling like a bad parent right now.
Okay.
Understand. Make me feel.
Well, if you notice, what it actually says first is hold the line as long as possible. The American Academy of Pediatrics recommendation is, or was, there was actually some kerfuffle. They might have changed it, but it was, limit screen time before 2. Don't let anybody tell you that the kids need screens before 2. Now, I completely get that this is a very difficult standard. I also trust me, it's worse for the second. It's not that difficult. You could just say, okay, we just won't have any of these devices in our house. And if you're not a screen person, then you might make 2 with your first child. But now let's say you have another child when your child is 2. And so now the 4-year-old, well, how are you going to keep the 1.5-year-old away from the 4? So let's look at it again. Hold the line as long as possible, because once they get into screens, once they get iPads and devices and stuff, yes, they're coming to you and saying, oh my gosh, change the kitty's color. And also the kitty is, they're thinking about feeding the kitty. Like there's all sorts of things where the app is set up to draw their attention in. So try to avoid it as long as possible. There are some people that will say that you need to teach children how to. No, you don't. No, you don't.
They figure it out.
They figure it out, and they will figure it out if the first time you hand them a device is when they are 8 years old. Really, your goal, and recognizing that you will fall short of this goal, but the general goal, They need to be moving around, exploring their world. They need to be looking into art and music and stuff like that. And frankly, before they really get a screen, you want to have reading well on its way. Which, by the way, I'm not an early reader advocate, so I'm talking like 8, 9, 10.
Yeah.
It's a hard thing. Are you going to be able to do it? Not at all. Or keep no screen time at all? No. Aim for it. Even if you're aiming for it and you fall a little short, but you're still going to be better than the person that's like, oh, well, whatever. I'm just going to give up. And they've got screens from the time that they're 18 months.
And I'll tell you this is that, okay, let's say Lauren's gone. She's left. And you and I are texting back and forth. Hey, description in the podcast needs to be edited. We're setting up music lessons. We're talking about whatever, right? And we're just doing these little texts. And I'm playing with Hallie, right? I'm on the floor. We're building blocks. We're playing Princess Snuggles, whatever, right?
Princess Snuggles.
Princess Snuggles.
Okay,
yeah.
you are a girl dad.
I am
definitely.
a girl dad, and I'm a proud girl dad. I'll tell you. I mean, yesterday we walked to the park. And she got up on the top of the slide, and I went, "All hail, Princess Snuggles!" And she came down the slide, and it was the cutest thing ever. Anyway, sorry, I just get wrapped up in my little girl. So we're texting. I'm playing with her. So we're playing Play-Doh, and so I play Play-Doh. I build the snowman. I go over here, and I mess with my phone. 10 seconds. I love that we have video right now. This is like amazing, right? So here's the message. Bang. Go back. Play-Doh. Right? By the 4th or 5th time, she wants to know what is going on here.
Yes.
There is no keeping her away from this.
Correct.
Period. End of story. So now
by the way, you're not playing some sort of silly game or anything.
I'm not on Facebook.
You're talking with your clients about when, you're going to do the music lessons, whatever.
Right.
Yeah, this is totally normal.
And this is not like this prolonged sort of, right? I mean, these are quick interactions, quick drive-bys.
And some people will also tell you, well, you shouldn't be multitasking while you're playing with really?
No,
really? Sometimes multitasking happens, but that's when we're going to get.
Yeah.
Okay.
And oh, by the way, it's like, I'm home more than most dads. Like my job is such that I get to spend time with my daughter. So that's not even a valid argument as far as I'm concerned. Oh, I just got heated. So anyway, she wants to know what's happening, right? She sees the screen, it lights up, right? And so now I'm in this conundrum where it's like, do I say no? And I put this thing in, I try to redirect her to the Play-Doh. And if that doesn't work, she starts crying, and it's like, okay, let's explore this thing together. Anyway, I'm just saying it's like, as a parent, don't kill yourself.
No.
Because just as as teenagers are using this more and more and more, so are we. Right.
So 2 things about that. One, especially with younger children, it is an excellent opportunity for you to say, I'm sorry, Hallie, I'm rescheduling some of my music, because she knows what you do for a living. She knows that you go to teach other children music. So I'm just scheduling with some of my parents. Just the same way if you were talking to an adult because it's really what you're doing. You're just doing it virtually, right? So just explain it to her so she knows what's going on. Oh, you know what? This is my time. I've got my cup of coffee and I'm reading the news in the morning, because you used to see your mom and dad reading the paper this.
I long for that.
Right. And we don't anymore. So, and you can limit it with time too. I'm having my cup of coffee and I'm reading the news, and then I'm going to come over and do whatever it is. But that way she knows.
Yep.
I mean, she also knows you're not, say, playing a game and you're not doing something wasteful or anything. The other thing is, just as there are some times when you will multitask, when you are doing 2 things at once and you're playing with your daughter and you're answering text, you need to have some times during the day. The most popular one is mealtime, where everybody's phones are down. They're just away. Some families will do it where they have a certain hour a day and mealtime. In this, do kind of what works for your family. I highly recommend doing it for mealtime. That's also when you can teach kids things like, eye contact and conversation skills and everything else. Our family tends to do a lot of game playing, dominoes, cards, backgammon during the Christmas holidays. While we're playing games, everybody's phones are down. That goes for Jim and I as well. So you need to have both options there.
Yeah.
But funny story. So those bumpos, the little foam seats that they sit in. Okay.
Yes.
Bumpos were developed by researchers who would do behavior experiments with kids, finding out how. So 1995 or earlier, when they would have kids in these little kind of seats and stuff, and so tiny kids we're talking. Okay, if they handed them some device with buttons, with their index fingers, poking with their index fingers, sometime around the late 90s, 2000s, researchers noticed they had not done, all of a sudden kids, tiny babies, or any that had any sort of, once they got to fine motor skills state, if you handed them something with buttons, they were more likely manipulating with their thumbs.
Interesting.
Because all of the adults and the elders that they see in their life have a device, and they're manipulating it with their thumbs. Kids watch and learn. You need to model some of this behavior, which means sometimes you need to be limiting your own
Absolutely.
your own time.
Yeah. I don't want to spend too much time on this, but like you gotta be present, right? Like this is a tool. It's not your life, right? You don't immerse yourself so much in social media that like you need to have it to have approval and that sort of stuff. I mean, whole nother episode, I'm sure, down the line. But let's get to the important topic of, okay, we're in elementary age now.
Okay. So much of this when you actually introduce screen times are real like devices, very, very specific to the child, you, and your family situation. Okay, so some kids can handle this sort of stuff earlier. Some kids can't. Some families will need it more. For instance, if it's a separate, mom and dad don't live together, kid might need a phone because they have to be available to negotiate the switches, the switches. Oh, well, I'm going to pick you up there instead. Depends on how many other friends in their group have. Okay. I gave my son his first device when he was in 6th grade, or his first phone device, because we used to travel.
What year was that? Just out of curiosity.
Oh, I can't remember what year he was in 6th grade. It would have been 13, 14? Okay. But we used to we lived in London, and so we were traveling back and forth, transatlantic flight 3 times a year at least, with 4 children. So my kids had iPods from the time, because I would let them unlimited iPod use on the airplane. Because you do anything to get through a flight with young children,
especially 4 of them at that point,
especially 4 of them, precisely. So we're talking at this point, I'm talking about cell phones, smartphones. So it went really well with my son. First of all, he is probably the most responsible and self-responsible of my children. So when his sister, that same year, she was in 4th grade, and so the next year, frankly, I kind of gave up because she had a couple of friends that they already had. And so to contact her, they were constantly blowing up my phone because, one, they hadn't been taught etiquette about. So if they didn't get me when they called, then they'd send a text. And if I didn't answer the text immediately, then they'd call. My phone was blowing up for the sake of like 2 or 3 of my daughter's girlfriends. So I gave her, and she's older, and so I rationalized all of this. And I gave her a cell phone sometime in 5th grade. And ended up regretting that. Okay. Mistake. Mostly for academic reasons, because, when you first give a child a phone, it's kind of, the new shiny toy. And it just it took over her attention in a way that I wasn't really expecting. But we'll get back to middle schoolers in just a second. At some point during elementary school, you're probably going to end up giving a child a device and or wanting to train them on it, because you don't want to, this can do so much stuff. It can you kind of want training wheels. I highly recommend.
Yes.
Dumb phones. Dumb phones. You can find them flip phone. This is the 5G, or not 5G. This is the 4G version of, this was my favorite Nokia little brick phone. Cindy Bristow had one of these. This was an awesome, awesome phone back about 2G and stuff. Well, Nokia updated it to work on 4G networks. It's still, to send text in order to get a capital A, I have to hit 2, 4 times. It's got a few games on it, like Snake or some sort of Tetris version.
That was my jam, dude. But I always used to run into my tail. Oh! Never the wall, always the tail. Anyway.
Yeah, no, so it's a great training. So it allows me to do all the things that I need. So communicate with them. It allows their friends to communicate with them. It teaches them, texting in a very clunky way. So it kind of puts the brakes on. It's excellent for, well, they have to keep up with it. Like, okay, because here's the other thing. Because I got smarter, and by the time the twins were this age, they got this when they were in 5th grade.
Mm-hmm.
They were quite upset.
They were not thrilled.
They were not
thrilled.
They were not thrilled because, as far as they were concerned, their older sister had gotten a real phone when she was in 5th grade. And here I am. They're late in 5th grade before I hand them this thing. But also the newness, like they really liked it for a little while and they did use it, but then they forgot to carry it with them some, or they forget to charge it overnight. So it helped teach them some responsibility. Before I give you the fancy device, you need to be able to keep up and take care of this device. And by the way, if you leave it at home, then it's completely useless and you want to go, free range parenting aside. So lots of talk these days about, parents hover too much and we need to give kids a little bit more freedom. And say, okay, well, here's a little secret about free range parenting. It is much easier to do for the kids and for the parents when other kids are doing it. Okay. Mm-hmm. And it's not that common anymore. So what? I'm going to let my kids go out because I'm definitely of the free range style, but I found it a little daunting to my kids were the only ones walking around. Okay. So the ability to contact them, that helps me a lot. Like they have a little bit more freedom because they are available for me to contact. So I'm kind of like, if you weren't willing to take this device so that I can contact you, no, I'm not really willing to let you just willy-nilly go over to some friend's house. Whereas if the mom's there to pick the friend up and you can call me and ask, well then, okay, yeah, sure. And now I know where you are. Another trick that anyhow, so this helped me delay getting this because it took them a while to learn how to take care of the Nokia.
Yeah.
And it did all the training things that I wanted it to do. And it also helped knock off some of the newness of texting and everything else so that when they got this, it wasn't as nearly as bad attention-wise as when their sister got it.
Yeah, wonderful. And just my personal anecdote for that is I remember week 1, they got the phones, had them with them everywhere. Mm-hmm. Week 2, nobody knew where their phone was. I mean, literally that quickly, one week, it was a non-issue.
Right. And we just turned that into a teaching moment of, hey, you want the fancy device? You're going to have to take care of the not so fancy device.
Right.
Just in the same way, the first time that your child goes off on their own, you don't want it to be when you hand them the keys to the car because they've just gotten their license. You want them to have been on scooters, been on bicycles, been walking around. So
understand how things work, understand the quote unquote rules of the road, that sort of thing. Yep.
Right. The same applies to tech use.
Yep. Okay. So we're moving into middle school kiddos.
Middle school kiddos. Again, it depends greatly on the kid. It depends on the environment. It depends on what you need. But usually that is a good time to introduce the smarter devices. So, couple of things here. One, I don't know about Android and Google. You could probably tell me. But the latest update of Apple's screen time, this is the parental controls that I have wanted for a decade.
No kidding.
I'm a big spot checker. Okay, so this doesn't monitor, say they're texting, because there are some programs that you can put on things that monitor every keystroke and unless the children have given me a reason to be worried about their behavior online, I much prefer to spot check.
Trust is given, not earned.
Trust is given, not earned. But then it's slowly earned. Trust is earned with previous. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to give a child that's not trustworthy in general. I'm not going to give them one of these devices in the first place. But then I give them a little bit of trust, and the parental controls that are now available on screen time allow me to do that because I can just do blanket. I can set down times. Okay. Yeah. And I can just have their phone basically shut off at 8:00 at night or whenever it works. And I can set it by different days. Trust me, for a long time, it's been very, very complicated to try and set up any sort of monitoring stuff for your children. I can get down granular. I can say, okay, but these apps are always allowed. So, for instance, their school apps, their It's Learning and their Skyward accounts that they use for school. Well, it was a big problem when I used to try and set their screen time limits. And I'm setting it. I want it to set at 8 o'clock, so it goes off well before they go to bed. But they're doing homework, and so then I have to turn the screen time limits off so that they can get to their homework. Now I can say even during downtime, the school stuff is always available.
Yeah.
Right. I can also set time limits so maybe I don't want them spending more than 4 hours on their school stuff, or so I can tell the app whenever downtime or not, whenever they hit the 4 hour limit, this app shuts off. Excellent. Totally helpful. But again, it depends on your kid, on your school, on your own lifestyle. But sometime 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, you're going to want to introduce this, in large part because you also want the newness to wear off before they're driving in cars, before they're getting into high school, when their grades really because when they first get this, when I first get it, when I first get it, or even just a new device, because this is the 11 Pro that I just recently got. It's kind of fun to play with when you first get the first device.
Yeah.
They're no different from us.
Yeah.
So expect when you first hand it to them, there's going to be a lot more interest. You want some of that frenzy to wear off before they get to stages that you need them to be a little bit more sensible about how they're using the device.
Yeah. So I would add, that is wonderful. All of the technology that's able to monitor, but there's always a way around it. There's always a way around it.
And they think through them much faster than you. It is very, very hard to keep on top of what they figure out ways around.
And I don't care, when my daughter is in that age group, I guarantee you my hands will be on her phone. And we will go through it app by app, shoulder by shoulder. Oh, there's 2 calculator apps in here. Oh, this is a secret messaging app. Right.
No, and we do that. That's part of the spot checking is that sometimes the children know I have their unlock codes. I have their Apple IDs and stuff like that. And sometimes I do just go in and spot check on occasion, and read through their text, and then about twice a year, unless they give me another reason to up the frequency, we sit shoulder to shoulder and go through photos, text, all that stuff.
Yep. Because and it's not even sort of this indictment on my child. It's more of kids at that age, like they want to feel accepted and they want to feel like they're fitting in. And if their friends say something like, well, if you get this thing, you can hide something from your parents.
By the way, this is no different than when we were growing up, except for the device that it's on.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's just the nature of teenagers.
Right.
They want to fit in. They might do stupid stuff out of peer pressure. That's still our job. The details of the job have changed. Our parents were more worried, I don't know, about maybe us drag racing or something like that. Certainly vaping wasn't a thing. They were worried about us smoking cigarettes. Right. That's not such a problem anymore. They're worried about none of this is new.
You don't
just
think
the form.
That when I was in 6th grade that I had a black little like plexi block safe thing with a lock on it that had like all of my shenanigans in there? Yes, I did. Was it in a cell phone? No. But like the things that I wanted to hide, the things that weren't good for me, like let's face it, right? The things that weren't good for me at that age.
And you knew.
But my friends were doing it and I wanted to be cool, right? And it's like, oh yeah, well, whatever. We're not going to get into specifics.
But yeah, here's the black plexiglass box.
Yeah, exactly, right? It's the same thing. It's just about hiding things from your parents, not because you dislike your parents. It's just because that's how kids are at that age and their friends and all that sort of stuff. So,
well, and ultimately, this is why it is our job to teach them how to negotiate and navigate these things themselves, because something that is a little different it's not a plexiglass box with a padlock anymore.
Yep.
Now it's a device that they are actually better at navigating and negotiating than we are.
Right.
So even if I wanted to totally control everything that they did and monitor no way. It's not possible. It's a completely irrational, or not irrational, unattainable task.
So this leads me into that it cannot dominate your life, right? So the phone can't dominate your kid's life and we have done some mini casts pertaining to how to shake someone's hand, how to have eye contact, how to, conduct yourself in social situations. Now, would there have been
I believe those are with the creating a neighborhood episode.
Yes,
right.
Yes. That there probably wasn't a need for those mini casts 15 years ago. Because
you
like
just
you
got
said,
it more by osmosis. Like
right.
it was just around. The way that the kids have learned to,
right?
use their
thing,
thumbs,
right?
You just saw more of that.
I watched my grandfather go into a room, make eye contact, compliment people, be charming, and then
you didn't have an option to look down at a device because it didn't exist at the time.
Exactly. And so I pick up all of these things, right? And so I sort of, he taught me without teaching me, this is how you work a room. This is how you talk to people.
Right.
When you're negotiating, this is how you do it, right? Like there are so
and there
many...
were probably sometimes that he actually did teach.
Oh, for
right.
sure.
Or you asked, but yeah, so much of it you learned from watching.
I mean,
so really, first thing in all of this is get our own houses in order, get our own, especially if you have younger children, like you have a 3-year-old, you have a chance to really think through what kind of, the thing that you and Lauren do about, think about where you want to be in 10 years and then just start
act like it right
act
now.
like it. Right. You can do that with your tech stuff. If you're like me and you have older kids and you haven't been thinking through it, then you're going to have to reset some habits. But really, you're going to get more credibility with your kids too if you reset your own habits first.
Yeah, I mean, I try to consciously, like, I don't play any games on my phone, period. Like that's a no-go for me. You know what's so funny? 30-second commercial break. So I've been editing these episodes and I have a question for both of you right now.
Okay, there's Sean is the other one who's pointing to.
Yep,
just so you
I
know.
am.
So
how's Harry Potter going? Is it even on your phone? Are you still playing
not
it?
on his. He left it. Nah, I'm on level 33.
Oh, okay. All right. I just...
Harry Potter Wizards Unite or Harry Potter Go.
Yeah,
So.
listen to that episode, and anyway. So I don't play.
That wasn't an episode. That was an opening to.
Yeah, it was. It was diatribe.
Yeah.
He's
he still got it on his
now.
phone. He still got it on his phone. But as he's a friend of mine on it, so I know he's not played it in months.
Yeah, that's right. So, because I don't like those games from when that's an own personal thing, but also like I don't want to be on the thing in front of her. That's at the end of the day, right? Because she's
playing
at that
a game.
age, yeah,
Right.
playing a game, right? Unless it's because like I do get a lot of texts, and so like I try to just get away from that as much as possible. So again, if you want your child to not be on their phone a ton, then don't be on your phone a ton. You know,
especially when you're engaging with them.
Yes, definitely.
And frankly, nobody likes it. You go out to lunch with all your friends and everybody pulls out their phone. Again, I have accidentally hit the record thing. Wow. This is one long dictated text that my children to my family.
You should send it.
Family group.
Send it to everyone. Everyone. This is what we're talking about. It's the closed captions of the episode.
No, one of the children has actually watched a few episodes of this, and she says it was cringy, not because she actually thought it was nice, but she's like, my mother's on YouTube. No. Such an 11-year-old statement. And the 14-year-old girl, for instance, one of her friends was asking about it because the friend thought it was cool, and Peyton's like, I get the live show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You get to see the unedited version.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so let's think about wrapping this up. What else do we want to talk about here today with kids in tech? You know, I'm just there's a lot of negativity when it comes to kids in tech, I think. I think there's a lot of judgment out there.
Yep.
And I think that you have to sort of, again, understand where you're at, what you're trying to accomplish. So, hey, man, my daughter was watching shows and doing things on YouTube at two and a half.
I think that's relatively common for musician parents.
And to me, like,
because a toddler on a drums is really cute.
Yeah, but that's the thing. It's like, but my child also sits down at the piano, slams the keys till God knows, right, and sings at the top of her lungs, right? She can, like, we've been practicing the "Love Is an Open Door" song from Frozen.
Okay.
She sings the female part and I'll sing the male part. We're legitimately harmonizing, right? Together. Now, I'm not saying this to show off or say like, oh yeah, look how cool my kid is. But
he is saying it a little to
I
look
mean,
how
you
cute
know,
he is again.
just a touch. But it's more of, this is because I spend time with her. This is because I'm not buried in my phone. With that being said, when I have to get ready to go to work and I got to jump in the shower and Lauren's gone, it's like, here is Peppa Pig. Here's Ben and Holly.
Ben and Holly, you watched Ben and Holly.
It's a staple now. It's a staple.
Awesome. Ben and Holly is another cartoon by the Peppa Pig people.
Yep.
But it's better.
Yeah, it's a staple for us now. But she doesn't just get to sit there for an hour and just zone out,
right?
You know, and so it's all on how you utilize the tool. It's just another tool in the tool bag. Just use it when it's required.
I want to leave all of our listeners with a kind of outside the box way of thinking about it, because there is a lot of negativity surrounding screen time. So this book was out, gosh, maybe 2013. It's been a little while now. But the gal, and I'll put the link in the show notes, but the gal who wrote it, basically she spent a lot of time following teenagers and preteens and how they use the device. She said she came up with a theory that I think is A, right, and B, nobody really considers. So these days, we talk a lot about kids are indoors too much, kids spend too much time we don't want them to spend time out of organized activities. They have sports, they have music lessons, they have language lessons. They spend a ton of time monitored by adults. Okay, back in your day, and then before that, back in my day, kids wanted to go hang out, they'd go to the mall. Okay, most of the parents I know right now don't like to let their children go to the mall. The movie, like tons of, now, forget the fact that the statistics are actually not as dire as they have been made to see. There's less stranger danger than the statistics suggest. There's a lot more family danger. There's a lot more known assailant danger, but there's not stranger danger. And so we're constantly saying, oh no, the children, we need them to stay at home. We need them. And then we're getting upset that they are finding another way to hang out with their friends without adult supervision. That's to them, this is their neighborhood village.
Yeah.
Okay. One, I think we need to be a little convicted by that because, well, maybe if we want them to engage more face-to-face, we might want to let them engage more face-to-face. On the other side, if this is going to be their neighborhood village, then, oh my gosh, we really need to teach them how to use it safely and wisely.
Very good. So. Great way to close it. Wow. That was really good, Leslie. That was really good.
And I'm sure this one might have lots of questions.
Yeah.
And we can easily do any sort of small parts of this. If anybody has any suggestions for mini casts, bring them on and we will talk through most of it.
Great. Time to shill. Ready? Where can people find you?
I myself am occasionally on Twitter at Leslie Loftus Text, but mostly I will be at the website monitoring comments and such. And then on Pinterest, you can find our show notes and related links. And Instagram, I put announcements.
And what's the Instagram? Where can they find us on Instagram?
It's All Life Administration.
All Life Administration. And you are doing a blog on the website as well.
Yes, I am.
Yeah.
So I would
you
can find that
in the
you can find that in the menus.
Yep, absolutely. And that's just like that's your blog, your voice. It's really it's really kind of it's going to be expanding as time goes on, and it's funny too. Like it's not just all serious things. There's actually a nice little behind the scenes hair flip thing that she puts in there.
Yes, I have hair flipping issues, which is how I ended up with a drunk mockingbird hairdo that these yahoos didn't notice.
Yahoo! Okay, so if you are listening to us on Google Play, Spotify, or iTunes, please consider giving us a 5-star rating. That absolutely helps us out. It's the best thing that you can do for us. If you're catching us on YouTube, please go ahead and hit the like button and make a comment.
I like
and
the
please
click
consider,
noise.
yeah,
Well done.
right?
Uh-huh.
And then make a comment and please consider sharing us with your friends.
Absolutely.
I have been Ryan Talon. She has been
Leslie Loftus, we have been, apparently. We're has-beens.
And you guys have been awesome. We'll see y'all on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.